I'm Michael. I'm the real-time CG soup at Axis Animation. And yeah, so just a little bit of a background is I've got a master's in game design, and I worked in games for 6, 7 years, something like that, before moving to Axis as a lead character artist, and then eventually became the real-time CG soup when we realized we have a lot more sort of real-time based projects or more real-time use for the pipeline for our pre-render projects. So that's a little bit about me. So student, did all this, and then actually got to kind of career shift a little bit into the sort of more VFX style of industry, I guess. So a little bit about Axis as well, because most of you have probably seen a lot of Axis work, but not necessarily know it is Axis. Axis is actually made up of 3 different studios based in Glasgow, London, and Bristol. Glasgow is our sort of flagship, and they make all of our 100% CG content, some animation for Axis VFX, and all of the sort of the sci-fi stuff that we're really well known for, but also some of the more whimsical, sort of cartoonish stuff. Bristol is our sort of second biggest studio. That's basically your more standard VFX sort of studio where we do things like Happy for Netflix. And of course we have Flaunt, which is our slightly more, it's sort of more, I want to say kids orientated, but it's more whimsical, more cartoonish. They did stuff for like Lost in Oz and the Monster High kind of, the Monster High projects. So at Axis, we kind of try and be quite an open studio. We kind of try and set ourselves around culture more so than anybody else and the people. And we find that that's the best way to kind of work and get some of the best stuff out of us. So we rely heavily on sort of interdepartmental communication and just kind of having a good time together in order to make the best stuff possible. But seeing as though a lot of people probably don't know that much about Axis, I thought the best thing to do would be to showcase some of what we do.
As if we ever need reason when miracles are known to happen. We're burning up the oxygen, coming up for air. It's about to happen. What can be said? Why speak?
Thanks. So that's kind of a sample of what we do, and Axis has been quite well known for making sort of trailers for video games, but in that sort of trailer you can kind of see we're moving on into other spaces as well, like long-form TV shows, so Kiss Me First, Happy are some of our biggest projects now, alongside things like 2D animation, and we're kind of trying to grow a little bit in terms of the projects that we take on, and that's kind of where the real-time stuff comes in. It's an extra sort of feather in Axis's cap, as to say. So this is actually a shot of Glasgow. This is our flagship. We have space for about 200 people, and we're running at almost capacity now with Happy being animated alongside a bunch of other projects. Then we've got Axis London, which is based in Hoxton Square. This is relatively new. It's been open for just over a year now. Oh, a bit longer, but it found its real home over a year ago. And it's quite small. It has capacity for maybe 20 people, slowly growing. But again, this is at full capacity now. And Bristol, where we mainly focus on Axis VFX. So this is more to do with your traditional VFX, where we take live action and comp it on. So a lot of the stuff that we do with Aardman, for example, all of the Aardman stuff, let's go with that, is done at Bristol. Oh, and yeah, here's some of us. So Axis is actually really quite multicultural. We have people from all over the world, and I think that just makes the studio awesome to have fun, see different people, meet different people, fail at speaking other languages.
We are in so many different places of the world. We still behave as a family, we still communicate as a family.
I'm Scottish, born and bred, but I love going out and get to meet all these new people coming in from all parts of the world, which is wonderful.
Axis Animation is based in Glasgow. We have a VFX company down in Bristol, and we have a production studio in London. What we're doing here at Axis is an enormous slate of very diverse projects, which is incredibly challenging. It's a very exciting time to be here.
Each project is something different, something exciting. It's like doing anything from an interior of a spaceship to going back in time to some ancient civilization.
What's exciting at the moment is we are growing quite a lot. So you as an artist can also grow together with the company.
The four founding members of the company are here working every day. Two are directors, and the importance and the value placed on the creative side of the business is what I think keeps the passion within the studio for everyone that works here.
If I love Glasgow, how can't you love Glasgow?
It's an amazing city, Glasgow.
It's got great culture, it's got great music.
People are lovely, very approachable and friendly, so yeah, it's a great place to live.
Oh, Bristol is gorgeous. It's my favorite place ever. So fresh and arty and inspiring.
I love London. I've been here 15 years now and I'm not leaving, so.
It's just a good melting pot to be immersed in and just grow as an artist.
There's a great energy here. People sharing ideas, people helping each other all the time.
You get all these cultures and you see everyone coming together and people always open to each other.
Go out together for a drink and we have screenings at the end of every month where we just sit and we watch the work we're producing and really enjoy what each other are working on, which is great.
So yeah, as you can see, we're definitely a people-orientated studio, and we also work really cross sort of sites. So we might work on the same project in both Bristol, Glasgow, and London. So again, you get to meet some cool people and get to move around. But enough about Axis and a bit more about real-time. So a lot of you will probably know that real-time is kind of used for video games for the most part, and that's been the biggest thing, is to be able to render stuff in real time and interact. But it's not just for games anymore, and it's vastly becoming something that is important in VFX, not just for real-time sort of media, but in use in pipeline. So just as an idea of what you can and what we do use it for, trailers. Obviously, you can render a trailer out in minutes versus hours in real time. Previs, like visualizing actual stuff faster, being able to iterate much quicker without any of your render times. Real-time visualization, so a lot of this stuff is happening where you're seeing digital cameras replacing people or actors in time, so you can act like a director while seeing your CG characters, because we can't all be the size of Thanos on stage, so you need to know how he looks. Live rendering, so we're talking streaming, live capture, and live rendering at the same time. Live data capture or render replacement, again, is kind of, there's lots of uses for real-time to maybe be used in not just small things, but feature films. AR and VR, two really big mediums that have kind of come up in recent years. Again, I guess, is because VR's been around for a while. And yeah, real-time is kind of the heart of that kind of stuff, to go something interactive, but is offering a new medium for people to tell their stories into. Location-based media, the really cool stuff that The Void does is pretty awesome. And again, real-time is at the heart of that stuff, where you can create something slightly more interactive and different and kind of get a lot more out of it. And trust me, that stuff is amazingly fun to do. And iteration, to visualize stuff takes time, and using a real-time engine with characters that you can animate on the fly and really fast just import and see in live and just completely change what you want to see. It's something really useful for us, and probably a bunch of other Asian stuff that I can't think about at the moment. Oh, and of course, you can make video games. So what do we do at Axis Real-Time? So Axis have done, so far, Horizon Zero Dawn. We did a bunch of in-game animation for that. Alien Isolation, same deal. You even saw some of the stuff in the trailer. I recently finished Amazon Lumberyard engine demo, which is basically a storytelling piece exhibiting everything that Axis can do inside of the Lumberyard engine. The Bond, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And of course, there's a ton of projects that I'm working on right now that I cannot talk about. So maybe if you guys have me back next year, I can show you some of the funky stuff that we get to do. But seeing as though I can't show you a lot of that stuff, I decided to show you a little bit of what we can show. Assuming it plays.
Really? Maybe if I just...
Now sometimes clicking these things really does help. Sometimes it creates... Fire! Captain, we're under heavy fire! Fall back! There has to be another way!
To rewrite the code we live by. To rise from our failures.
And blaze a new trail! Come on, boy! Time to take us... Because we never let obstacles stop us. We only see them as a chance to...
Build. Gotcha.
So that was our Amazon Lumberyard demo, and that was made in 5 months with a core team of 7 and plus animation coming in and out. And yeah, that's kind of us creating concept, story, iteration, assets, rendering, animation, the whole shebang, all in real time, no edits, no comping, no nothing, just pure engine renders stuck together with audio basically placed on top. Please do not play again. But I also want to show you something which we made, which is Axis's first IP. So it's our own intellectual property, and we wanted to see what the real-time team could actually do. So as part of that, we decided we wanted to showcase what the real-time team are capable of, and we also wanted to show what Axis can do with a new medium and with our own content. So with the Bond, we really wanted to make a showpiece, essentially, and that's what we did. It's taken about a year and had a very small team on it the entire time whilst doing multiple other projects. But it's something special, and I think it was a way for us to show that we can, what kind of stories can you tell in a completely different medium using real time? So that trailer was made in about 2 hours flat from start to finish, apart from one little piece of custom animation. So we had the whole film already, and I basically repurposed, reanimated, re-rendered everything and kind of swapped out a few things. But that's kind of an idea of what you can do when you've already got everything. It took 2 hours to edit, render, and stick everything together, essentially. So why did we make the Bond? Well, I've already kind of covered over this, but it's to showcase our real-time sort of skill set. We want more real-time clients. We already have a ton of them now, but we also wanted to showcase what other mediums can do. So the Bond is kind of a story created for VR that really does not work in 2D at all. We have a 2D version of it. It's nothing close to actually experiencing it in a headset. So first of all, if any of you have a headset, please go and check it out. It's on the Oculus Store and the Steam Store. Oculus Store and Steam, and it works for Oculus and Vive. So we kind of wanted to showcase that we can make content from start to finish. With Yard, which is the demo I showed you earlier, we did everything from start to finish, like concept, story, the whole shebang. But with the Bond, we want to take it a step further and actually create something immersive as well and release it to the audience in a way that you can actually interact and completely believe this kind of world that we're kind of trying to create. Oops, that was not supposed to happen. Can you tell I'm a noob? So yeah, and it's our first VR project, so we had to learn everything on the job whilst doing it, all on a very small budget and with a very small team. Luckily, we got some funding with Scottish Enterprise, and yeah, it's been great. And actually, we've had some really good responses to the Bond. So it was also meant to be 1 minute 30. It's now 7 minutes, and it was made on exactly the same budget. So again, kind of the flexibility of real time is you can start reusing assets, and once you get up and running, it's pretty fast. So again, I really just wanted to show off the key art because Ivan Chevron did an amazing job on that stuff. As I said, it's on the Oculus and the Vive store, and there is a 360 version coming to YouTube really soon as they let me release it, in other words. It's being entered to VR film festivals, and we're waiting on things like South by Southwest and Cannes to see if we actually get in. And for our first kind of VR thing, we really wanted to break the boundaries a little bit, and we started doing things like moving cameras, which everyone says, don't do it. But I've actually got one of my favorite sort of comments, which is, now this is the future. Finally, after years of owning the Oculus, this is the first experience which makes me think, yes, this is the future of film entertainment. I loved it, and the immersion was perfectly done. Largely helped with little things that companies don't usually do for some reason, like camera shaking, when you're running, etc. Other companies take note, your vision is not still when running. I've waited so long for something to make me actually feel like I was flying, and the experience prior where you're being chased around the ground is amazing. More, please. So, yeah, we kind of wanted to take a big risk with the Bond, and kind of we felt that VR was kind of static and a lot of storytelling didn't need to be done in VR, and we wanted something that actually really had to be told in VR, otherwise you wouldn't get it. So with the Bond, you kind of get to be put in different perspectives. You become small, you become large, you get to fly, and all the kind of cool stuff that you really want to do, but, you know, the real world doesn't let you do those kind of things. And I kind of want to also show a little bit of the concept stuff, just because I think it looks pretty cool. And we really wanted to go with something a bit funky and different. There are limitations to real time, and you have to design around them, especially in VR. VR has to run at 90 frames per second, and you have to work on the lowest spec machine. So we designed a little bit around that. We went into something kind of funky and different and really quite stylized, but the shapes would allow us to work around some of the limitations that are there for real time. But it's also worth noting that real time does have limitations if you're trying to use it as real time. But if, one, you have a monster PC, or two, you are not using it for actual live interaction, you can make something pretty epic, which we'll go into a bit later. And the creative freedom that we got on the Bond was pretty awesome. Like, we literally got told, go make a VR piece and make a good story. And that was all that the bosses wanted. And what we got was the freedom to work and to iterate. And my God, the amount of iterations. As I said, it started at 1 minute 30 and it went to 7 minutes. And I accidentally did a build where it was upside down and fell over and nearly threw up. So lots and lots of iteration. But again, that's the fun bit, is I could actually change that whole film in a day and have all of the animation completely updated, rendered, and experiencing it in hours or less. And the world of the Bond, I mean, so these are some screenshots of how it actually looks inside the engine. They're pure screenshots, no bells and whistles, no nothing. So just to kind of showcase that this is actually what you can do on a low-end sort of budget, because this is VR. It has to run really fast. So you can make something pretty nice looking, in my opinion, for VR. But this is the bottom end, and the only way to go is up. So the world of the Bond is set in an alien forest called Lucara, and it's kind of this vibrant alien world where you have super weird creatures and really weird mushroom trippy colors and kind of fun stuff. So again, definitely go check it out. Color scripts. Again, real-time works exactly the same way as pre-rendered. So at Axis, we're actually trying to make sure that our pipeline can flow either way, and some projects are actually using real-time for completely different reasons other than rendering out a final image. So we do everything exactly the same, you know, concept, color scripts, asset boards, assets, you name it. We do it exactly the same way. There is no need to change, and there's kind of, we have artists that were for pre-rendered that are now working in real-time, and similarly we have real-time artists who on the second, when there's not a real-time project for them or they've finished up their bit, they're working in the pre-rendered sector as well.
With the Bond, we wanted to create a virtual experience that really played to virtual reality's strengths. So we created this original world where you would be able to see through the eyes of these different creatures, these different alien creatures, experience what it's like to be a little tiny insect or a bird flying through the air. We can put you in the most alien of situations, but it seems completely real and normal to you in this virtual world.
We wanted to create something that used the full potential of VR as an immersive tool into something you have never seen before, but at the same time tell a compelling story.
Axis is so well known now for coming up with strong creative ideas with other people's IPs. So the next step is only to create our own IP, because it's been the first time that Axis has been able to kind of, one, dive into the VR medium, but it's only the second time we've been the creative director, you know, production, implementation, optimization, and release. It's been a huge project for the real-time team, and it's been a great learning experience to prove that we can not just do animation, but we can do everything.
The Bond is set on the distant world of Lucara. Tia Moati is an ancient healer, guardian of the forest, one of the last of her kind. Using her powers, she can tap into the web of life and see connections to the creatures of the forest. She can see their state of mind, if they're scared or in pain, and actually spirit walk into the creature's perspective, seeing through their eyes. From the view of a gillet running for its life or a coyote soaring above the clouds. And the brilliant thing is we get to come along for the ride. Tia Moati and her faithful beast, Musha, seek to discover the source of an imbalance within the fantastical forests of Lucara. Tia Moati connects to the web of life and confronts the unknown dark presence.
The whole story is about the world and how the different elements, the different creatures who live in that alien world are connected with each other.
With this being our first foray into VR, we had to not only adapt to the way we tell a story, but also to what is engaging in a fully immersive environment. Everything that we created also had to run on VR minimum spec PC in real time. The VR and graphics card hardware is evolving so fast, and this gives us the opportunity to push the visual fidelity of what we can render in real time. It's one of the reasons why it's been so great having such close links with the industry giants like Unreal, Steam, and Oculus. There was quite a few things that actually worked that we didn't think would work, or we were told that it didn't work. We were told movement in VR is a no-no. And what we found actually is we could kind of push the boundaries. We wanted to move the camera. We thought it would be very boring to be very static, and we found that it does work.
It's a really exciting time to be working in VR. It seems particularly suited to location-based entertainment. We're already working with various theme park clients, but it seems like there's an opportunity outside of the major park operators to create some amazing VR experiences. And Axis really wants to be at the forefront of that.
I mean, I've been talking a lot about the Bond, so I think it's more important now that we talk a little bit about real-time and sort of where it's going, or rather what other studios are also doing with it. So, as I said, real-time has really got a lot of flexibility to it, and it's not about making everything run in Unreal or Unity or whatever, and that's how we make every film. That's never going to happen, or won't happen for a very long time. But what it can do is help us get to where we want to go faster. So, the Siren demo, which is the girl in the top corner, is a virtual host driven in real time by an actress performing in a mocap space and live driving a really quite high fidelity character that looks pretty damn good. And that is all done on the fly in real time with almost no lag whatsoever. And that's being developed by Epic and 3 Lateral. If you haven't seen it, go check it out because it's actually mind-boggling how fast but also how good it looks. And that's kind of one thing that we can use it for almost immediately is if you've got the setup, you can start mocapping and seeing and visualizing absolutely everything you want to see live, which means you get to be a director and not a technician. The Andy Serkis demo, again, something you really need to go see to have a look at, but they decided to capture Andy Serkis and kind of morph his performance in a few different ways. And yeah, again, like that is starting to look pretty awesome and is up there with some pretty decent sort of real-time in pre-rendered character replacements. And I don't know, well, I'm pretty sure most of you have probably seen Avengers Infinity War, but again, Thanos was actually live captured his whole performance so the director could visualize Thanos rather than just looking at Josh Brolin being quite small on a stage with his actors. And finally, K2SO. ILM are doing a lot of really cool stuff with real-time, and what you might not know is K2SO was rendered in real-time in a bunch of shots in Rogue One, and similarly, so was Finding Dory. So we're starting to get to the point where these real-time frames can actually be used in feature-length films, and there are very few people that will notice the difference. And to be honest with you, there is a ton more stuff happening right now coming out that is pretty awesome. And as I said, this has nothing to do with using it as the final output and everything to do with making sure we can be more creative. And on that, what are we doing with real-time and Axis? And the truth is, we're just using it for storytelling. That's our main goal. That's what Axis love to do, is we love to tell a great story. So we're using it to broaden our horizons and make storytelling faster or not hamper us and make decisions before we've seen it. So we're using it as a way to go, all right, I have these 5 ideas which I think could work. Maybe one is better than the other. And instead of deciding on which one to do because it takes too long to go through, we actually just try most of them out or all of them out and then work on top of that. And I feel like that's the best way to tell a great story. And it allows us to do things like take a 1:30 VR piece and take it into 7 minutes because you realize if you throw somebody flying down off a cliff in 1 minute, then they're not prepared for it and they will throw up. So yeah, faster storytelling, making better stories, faster visualization. Again, just seeing what you want to see rather than, as you probably know, we feel like we're kind of construction artists seeing the shells slowly building up into something. And what we're trying to do is use it as a way to kind of skip the building blocks and go straight to something a bit more visualized. And then, of course, there's new technology. VR, AR, location-based media. There's so many different mediums now where you can start telling stories and doing cool stuff that is just opening up another sort of avenue to the world. And I think they're there to stay. And being part of that new technology and being able to do something cool with it is a lot of fun, and it's worth pursuing, I guess, and making magic, because in the end, I think anything that allows us to go through anything faster and make something better, and in some ways it's actually easier than the pre-render stuff, I think that's pretty magical. So that's basically it. and I have time. I have 13 minutes and 35 seconds for questions, if you have any. I really hope you do, because otherwise I'm going to stand here and look like a Muppet for a while. So, yeah. Oh, also, thebondvr.com, if you want to go check out some of our art and some of our stuff. And please do check it out if you can, because I think it's one thing to see it, but definitely something to experience it. So, please have a question.
Just wondering what real-time engines you use and why you use them. Obviously, Amazon, Lampyard, Unreal, Unity. Which ones do you use, and why would you use one over the other?
Right.
To make sense.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the truth is we actually use all of them. It's very much dependent on the project and the client. We tend to lean a little bit towards Unreal right now because, one, they're creating some of the most innovative tech and they're releasing really fast. As I said, the Siren demo, and that's all being driven by Epic themselves. So that's what we currently use generally if we're just doing something ourselves. But again, like Amazon approached us for the Lumberyard demo, so we picked up and learned the Lumberyard demo. I've actually used CryEngine before in my professional capacity, and it's kind of a evolution or branch of that. And again, I've used Unity for 5 years, and we use it for a lot of pipeline stuff or a lot of visualization, especially when we're doing something internal. Like we kind of get together every year and try something new. So this year, or last year rather, I guess, we did a VR festival where we all got to do interactive sculpting and like 2D, 3D artwork. And that was just open for the whole studio to come in on this day, kind of sculpt. And then we did like a showcase where we showed it all off, and we just built a little viewfinder in Unity because it's super fast and it's super flexible. So it really depends on what we're trying to make or who we're making it for. A lot of our real-time in-engine cutscenes, which again, can't talk too much about that, but a lot of them tend to use Unreal. But there's millions more game engines in the world that we can use as well, that if somebody comes at us, we'll use it.
Sorry, just a quick other question.
Yeah?
Do you actually work within virtual reality sort of scenarios, or are you actually animating?
Yeah. Well, I actually tried that, and I did do some placement, like set dressing inside of VR itself, because that way you can check to see, where am I looking and what looks cool. And yeah, VR, full disclosure, there are hundreds of cheats that you need to do in order to make that work. So yeah, it's great fun to be in VR, and it's something we also want to do is we want more concept artists to work in VR, because once you've concepted out, we can use that as a basis for 3D artists and kind of visualize stuff far more accurately than we can. There's a lot of interpretation of taking 2D concept to 3D, and the artists that we've seen, like Yobrev, who's doing 360 sort of concepts, awesome stuff, and it's all super useful because we get a much better idea earlier, right? And that's it, is see what we want to see earlier. That's it. No worries.
Oh yeah, because I want to get into the concept art industry, and what VR program would you recommend that I get if I wanted to get good at VR and concept art and combine both of them?
Sure. Well, there's quite a few. It depends on the angle that you want to go. If you want to create 3D, there's Quill and Medium. I think they're both, one is Oculus only and one is like for Vive and Oculus. They're great. They're 3D mediums where you can sketch up in 3D and kind of build almost like a 3D model type thing, but it's concept art. The other thing that we kind of do quite a lot of is using Photoshop and something like 3D Coat, where you basically paint onto a 360 spherical kind of thing. So in the world, if you feel like you can see everything, but it's still painted in a 2D manner. So you can then kind of work more 2D style, but still visualize it in a 360 manner, which you kind of then get this feeling of depth. So those are just a few, but to be honest, every day something new kind of pops up, which is kind of cool. But definitely Quill, and it's called Medium, I'm pretty sure, on Oculus.
Thanks.
No worries.
Hi. Do you think it's worth animators and other people going into different specialisms and stuff to learn real-time engines, or do you reckon that's just for people going into VFX?
I think it's worth everyone understanding a little bit about other departments. Animation is one of those where, to be honest, up until a certain point, animation is the last bit where you can do it both ways and it doesn't change too much other than the rig design or whatever, or what you're actually doing might not necessarily work the traditional way in real time. But again, we're using cachers more and more, so we're getting 100% what you do and what we see. But there is a need, I think, for animators who understand how the engine works, especially for more maybe game or interactive client stuff, because the way you animate for games and that kind of media can change slightly because you have to be able to interactively blend and stuff. So it's definitely worth looking at least just as a broad scope to understand how it might work rather than diving in and doing it. But there is more and more animation tools and stuff coming in to tools like Unreal or Unity, or I'm actually going to try and bring animation previewing live. So you're animating here, and you're seeing everything lit and rendered in real time here. So when you're moving, you're seeing it, and then you can just play your shot, and it will just play there in, we're talking seconds, not press a button, wait for a render. And that's fully lit, fully rendered and everything. So it's definitely something to try out because I think, again, it's just a way to see what you're doing faster,
Awesome, thank you.
No worries.
You were saying earlier that like the communication between the three studios is quite good. So I was just wondering if you ever share like disciplines as well. Like, do you ever get Glasgow doing a lot of the VFX work, or do you ever get like Bristol doing any of the like cartoony animation or anything?
Yeah, so we do have cross-platform. I mean, Bristol is kind of hardcore VFX. So as I said, Aardman and Happy, but Happy is animated in London and in Glasgow as well, but rendered and comped generally down in Bristol. But again, we do some lighting and rendering up there. It is really cross-site, and it depends on talent a lot of the time. Like, if you really want you, but maybe you don't want to go to Glasgow for whatever reason, we do have London, we do have Bristol, but they are much smaller. And yeah, I think it's an important thing to have. The only drawback really is that physicality, that human one-to-one versus, Skype sucks and Google Hangouts. It's not the same as being there talking to somebody in real time, I nearly said. Yeah, that's the only thing. But yeah, we do everything cross-site to the most part. Most of the real-time team are all the real-time team are in Glasgow, but it was animated partially in London. And I really enjoy that workflow, and it means that if you want a job and you maybe don't want to go to Glasgow, but by the way, Glasgow's really pretty, you can still stay in London or Bristol or something like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
So since real-time is such a new it's kind of a recent area and things are still being discovered, developed in general, what is like one of the best places for people aspiring to get into this discipline to like learn and research about? Because like it's kind of like it's hard to get into. It's like, as in, it's new. So like, where do I look for it?
Honestly, the truth is, there isn't a lot, and that's kind of the best bit rather than the worst bit. It means you can't read a book and learn it, but it means that it's open to interpretation. Like, as I said, with the Bond, we were told, stay static, don't move the cat. We went, screw that. We want to move and make something really quite visceral. And it turns out it was actually a good thing. And, we kind of there are still tutorials out there for the basic setup, but it's kind of open to interpretation. And I think that's the best bit a little bit, is you get to kind of make out of it what you want. There are the technical setups, which is easier to find about. Google had to set up a VR headset in Unreal or in Unity, and it's not that difficult. But the creation and that kind of stuff, that's more open. But that also means that you're way more visible to, if you manage to make something even remotely, like something a bit different and something that kind of catches your eye, that means you've kind of got your pick, because this stuff is still coming and still growing. If you're there at the base of the growth of VR or AR or whatever medium is going to come next, it can only mean that you've kind of got an easier life later on. So take it now and kind of learn by yourself. That's the other thing I can teach, is like, just learn by yourself, and anything that's coming out, keep up to it, maybe track it. Don't learn what you don't need to know, but it's good to know what's going on in the world, because it'll make you more flexible. I mean, I'm a tech artist and character artist who's now in charge of art direction and whole projects and juggling, and I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
I've got a question.
Thank you.
Assuming your studio uses Maya for animation, I'm assuming you guys have heard about the new viewport updates in Maya and how it's tackling real-time rendering inside of the viewport. Are there any plans on maybe implementing that into because you said that you wanted to try out different engines. It would be a very good kind of marketing thing for Autodesk if you were.
No, absolutely. I mean, we've had Viewport 2.0 for well, since I was at university, let's put it that way. And it's never been great yet, and it's slowly getting better, and it's, you know, it's definitely catching up. And absolutely, like, I think the ultimate goal would be, instead of having to create assets or convert for real time, the best bit is this convergence where it just is together. That would be the best bit. So when it catches up, that'd be awesome. The other one that's working quite well is Blender's Eevee. That looks pretty epic, you know, and that is great rendering. And if it keeps growing and keeps offering new features and technologies that we can actually utilize, then yeah, absolutely. Like, we are not set in stone. We are not, right, we are only doing Unreal. We are just kind of going with the flow and seeing what provides the best option, because in the end, that's what we want to do, is we want to make the best stuff as fast as possible and make cool, like, we want to focus on creative. The tech behind it doesn't matter so much as long as it, in the end, gets us where we want to go.
Thank you.
Hi, I was just curious, how do you attract clients, knowing that obviously, unless you sort of experience with a VR headset, you wouldn't be able to sort of look into that, the project, without having them to wear the headset. So how do you sort of attract clients?
That is the most difficult part. So I get to go to clients with a really big Dell XPS backpack that weighs an absolute ton, which has a 1080 Ti in it, to demo a lot of the time. This is the reason I'm making a 360 version, which I'm hoping they'll let me release one day. And at least that gives you some idea. But honestly, there isn't much of a replacement for actually putting on a pair of goggles. So if you've never tried it, do it, because it's definitely a surreal experience. But yeah, I mean, clients know Axis, and with the project, just trying to not say too much, with the projects that keep coming out and what we're working on, like we're already hilted up for all of this year, and we've got some massive projects coming out over the next 2 years that we're working on right now, which can only grow our sort of visibility, I guess, to clients. But yeah, to be honest, it's face-to-face. Show them some art, because the art's kind of cool, I think. But yeah, in the end, it's either send them a build or, you know, go take that headset to them, because it's something very different.
Hello, I wanted to know why would like a client would accept to do real-time instead of the normal VFX pipeline? Because real-time is still a bit down on normal VFX.
I mean, it depends on your view. If you can spot the shot of KS in Rogue One of the real-time things, I challenge you to try and find it. But honestly, it's about brave clients or wanting to do something a bit different. We have had clients really want to use real-time, and we've had clients that just don't want to touch it. And it's perception, really, I think. But if we can showcase like how good something looks, or challenge you to see the difference between a pre-rendered and a real-time thing, I think it will change, because in the end, they get to see that faster. And, you know, who doesn't want to see their final piece faster and work on making it better than all the steps up to it? But, you know, it is taste in the end. That's all it is.
All right, thank you very much to Michael. I think I challenged you at the beginning to keep people entertained, even though they're hungry. And, I mean, that was brain food. That's what that was. That was brain food to keep us going.